Welcome to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show Podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM and NTXVarsitySports.com. Live from Parker County Brewing Company in Willow Park. The Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show Podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. And now, here's the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist.
Two receivers either side, play action for Tubbs, pressure to his right, now is in trouble, will take off with it, breaks a tackle, gets to the 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown Aledo Bearcats! Lincoln Tubbs from 22 yards out makes something, a lot of something out of nothing, and the Bearcats are up 23-0.
And we welcome you to the Aledo Coaches Show Podcast. I'm Kevin Lonnquist, and we are at Parker County Brewing Company off of Ranch House Road. Just make your first left when you get past the I-20 overpass. We will bring you every podcast from this location throughout the 2025-26 school year. As always, we want to thank our two main sponsors between H5 Sports Barn and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. We continue to appreciate their support of the podcast as well as Aledo Athletics. Number one Aledo now 13-0 following its 55-0 blowout of Arlington Heights in the 5A Division I Region I semifinals this past Friday. Back-to-back shutouts and the sixth shutout recorded this season, the running game with well over 300 yards in the win. For the 30th consecutive season, Aledo continues its pursuit to add state title number 13. Bearcats have the state record with 12, and it would only seem appropriate that the rivals meet one more time. Number one Aledo taking on number 4 and 12-1 Denton Ryan in the 5A Division I Region I Finals or the state quarterfinals, whichever you prefer. It will be at the Northwest ISD Stadium right by the Texas Motor Speedway. It's a 7 o'clock kickoff. As always, 92.1 Hank FM has the call for you. Pre-game show starts at 6:30 with yours truly, Kyle Hicks, Mercedes Meyer, and the Deacon. And by the way, for what it's worth, Aledo is 10-1 all-time at Northwest ISD Stadium. This is the 8th all-time meeting between these two powers. Aledo leads 4-3, but here's the trend Aledo wants to change. The Bearcats have won all 4 during the regular season. Ryan has won all 3 of its games in the playoffs. The winner to the state semifinals against either Highland Park or Frisco Lone Star. Those two kick off at 7 o'clock Friday as well. That will be at the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco. Back to our normal 2-part podcast. As always, we'll start with Aledo head coach Robby Jones. Then we wrap up things with senior wide receiver Kaydon Finley. He makes his 3rd appearance. And then we talk special teams with the kicker, who has now added punting to his duties in senior Payton Shaffer. Okay, so that one with Arlington Heights, one about as most of us expected, at least the media did. The early turnover creates the short field on their 20-yard line, and then you get the touchdown, and then you're off to the races. Overall impressions?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the way we expected things to go. We felt pretty good going in the game that we had a pretty good matchup against them. They like to run the football. We were a pretty good run defense, and then we felt like, we could take advantage of some things in the passing game and the run game against them, and it kind of played out the way we thought it would.
All right, career day for Brady Powell, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns, 65-yard touchdown run. That came in the 3rd quarter. He's such a throwback running back, north-south kind of a kid, doesn't give an inch. Have you ever coached a running back like him?
Maybe back in the day a little bit, but I mean, he's a good kid. He's a hard worker, does everything you ask him to do. He just, is continuing to get better and better as the year has gone on. And, it's fun to watch him have those successful runs and have a good game like that.
The funny thing is that Kyle and I kind of had this back and forth during the broadcast. This was kind of a tit-for-tat between Brady and then Kaydon Wingfield because the rushing leader who had the lead going into it. Now, Kaydon had the lead going into it. Now Brady does. Brady is at 935 yards. Kaydon is at 865 yards. And we've talked ad nauseum about the running game and how spread the wealth it is. But the thing about these two is that they complement each other so well, is that you really don't get a drop-off, even though their styles are different.
Right. I mean, either one of them's out there, you're going to get a good back getting the ball. And it's really good when we have them both out there and the defense doesn't know which way we're going with it, So it gives us some advantage having 2 guys that have that ability.
Did you anticipate this coming off like it did? These two have 39 touchdowns between them, 23 for Wingfield, 14 for Powell.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really know how it was going to go. We knew that they were both going to play a lot. That was the main thing was, we had those two guys. We got two others that we got that are capable. But we knew we're going to go with those two guys, and those two guys were going to share the majority of the carries. And it was just based upon how the game's going. Which one gets more carries, which one gets the long runs, which ones get the red zone plays. And it's kind of like. Wingfield hadn't got the long runs because, we've had short fields whenever he's been carrying the ball. And then
Right.
Brady's, he's run off a few long runs.
So how do they decide, or your coaching staff, Coach Williams and the rest of the offensive staff decide which time do we want to put which running back in?
Yeah, I mean, that's Coach Evans, the running backs coach. He's the one that's kind of doing that. And I think he's kind of going off of how he feels the game is going, and if he sees that Wingfield's had about 5 or 6 carries in a row, then he's going to have Brady in there for a little while, so that they're sharing the load, and they're both staying fresh for the entire game.
Of course, and then as far as the venue for the game against Arlington Heights was concerned, you obviously played at the Crowley ISD multi-purpose ISD Stadium. Obviously didn't work out there last year against Denton Ryan, but you did get the win there this past Saturday, so you get that bad taste out of your mouth. And I guess get used to coming to this place, because if you end up in a district that could feature this Crowley schools, at least you'll be familiar with the setting.
Yeah, and that was kind of the idea. We knew it was a nice stadium because we played there last year, and we figure there's a really good chance we're going to be in the district with Crowley and North Crowley next year. So, go over there. Let's go get a win in that stadium so that we don't go over there during a district game with a, sour taste in our mouth, for that stadium. That was one of the things. We got off the bus and I heard one of the kids say, "I hate this stadium," but so maybe they don't hate the stadium as much anymore. Now they do hate the feeling that they had leaving at this time last year. So they're going to make sure that we're keyed up and we're ready to go this week.
Okay, so let's go back to the Heights game for just a moment. With your front, you pretty much eliminated their big back Carson James early. He finished with only 38 yards. Remember, this was a running back that came into this game 2,310 yards against the first 12 opponents that he faced. And it almost looked like they conceded that part of their offense to you early. They didn't really even try to establish them, even if they wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, they gave it some effort at times. But, yeah, they came out, throwing the ball a little bit more than what they had shown. And, they had some new schemes, some new things, some new little wrinkles to try and throw us off. They were pulling a guard to the right and rolling the quarterback out to the left. And what that was doing was it was taking our Mike linebacker away from the play. And so they had some new little stuff that was pretty good. But, once we were able to, get it figured out and get over the sideline and talk about it, it didn't work. And then, then they had to go back to their run game, and you saw what happened with that.
Yeah, and they just couldn't get anything established with their passing game at all. I mean, just everything was pretty much discombobulated from their standpoint. Yeah. So, of course, obviously the end of the first half was kind of a weird scene, too, because of the penalties that were assessed after the end of the first half. I mean, obviously Lincoln threw the bad ball there that was picked off, but then Alex Patton comes back with the interception right at the end to close off that drive. I think that speaks to how well your defense rises up when its back's against the wall. But for people who didn't understand what happened there, because what was crazy about that is that the officials did not really communicate to the stadium exactly what had happened there.
Yeah, so what had happened was, Alex intercepted the ball over on the sideline, stepped out of bounds, but then he continued running. And Decker was kind of locked up with one of the offensive linemen. The guy was actually holding him, but that's beside the point. But so they're over, and evidently they're not hearing a whistle. And that offensive lineman took off to go tackle Alex, and Decker saw that, so Decker went and blocked him. And it was probably a blindside block anyway. But they gave us a personal foul on that. A late hit penalty. But it was just one of those situations where that's not something that Decker does. Decker's not a dirty player.
Sure.
He just felt like, his teammate was about to get hit, so he was protecting his teammate.
Sure, and that's the selflessness part of what you guys teach with this program here.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I mean, and he, like I said, he if he'd have known the whistle had blown, he wouldn't have gone and done that.
But. Yeah, it's a fundamental thing. Play through the whistle, and then when the whistle blows, we're done.
Yeah, and this crowd, got to give our people some credit. Little people showed up this week.
Yeah, it was a huge crowd.
Yeah, I mean, and even the Arlington Heights side had a lot more people than I've ever seen at a Fort Worth football game. So great, Okay, there we go. Yeah, great venue, great, atmosphere, all of that, and I'm saying that maybe they weren't blowing their whistles real loud and the fans were cheering. So, Decker didn't hear it.
Sure. 8,000 seat capacity, yeah. And, of course, where we were broadcasting on was on the west side, and that's the sideline you all had. And Aledo, as you mentioned, their fans really, filled up really the upper deck of the stadium. And, of course, for Heights, good following for them. Of course, a lot of them started to leave at halftime when it was pretty much academic. But, yeah, I mean, it was a great atmosphere. And for any Fort Worth ISD team, their deepest playoff run for at least Heights since 1973, deepest playoff run for any Fort Worth ISD team since Dunbar in 1992. So, I mean, I think from their fans, at least it gave the Fort Worth fans at least something to feel good about because they hadn't seen this in so many years.
Yeah, and they really thought they had a chance to win the football game, which you got to. You can't go into a playoff game thinking you don't have a chance. But, the Heights people, the fans, they all thought that, they were going to, show Aledo how to play real football and things like that. And, there was a lot of trash being talked on social media. And normally whenever the opposing team talks a lot of trash towards our kids on social media, it works out pretty well for us.
Yeah, I've heard that over the time or two. There's a few games that come to mind. I won't bring them up, but I do recall several of those. Okay, so here we go for Denton Ryan, the sequel, Chapter 4. It will be a little more than 2 months since the last meeting. What's the difference about Dave Hennigan's team on both sides of the ball since that meeting?
Their defense is still an outstanding defense. Not a whole lot has changed as far as their defense is concerned. Offensively is where you kind of, it's kind of like us. Offensively is where you see that they've made the most improvements. And where I see the most improvement is in their passing game. Seth Hennigan's doing a good job of managing that team. He's getting the ball down the field and hitting receivers, whereas in the beginning of the year, he was throwing a lot more incomplete passes, on the deep balls. He's hitting those deep balls right now, and the guy that they're getting them to is Trayvon Reynolds out of the backfield. Yeah. He burned us for a touchdown. The only touchdown their offense scored on us in that first game was a pass to him down the pipe. And they've continued to get the ball to him out in space, and and he's their number one weapon to me.
Okay, but at the same time, when two teams play each other this much over the years, I wouldn't think there would be a lot of secrets unless someone has a crazy play drawn up that they're going to use in a just-in-case situation. I mean, this is almost like you guys, it's kind of like using the line from the movie Hoosiers. I want you to guard him, and by the time the game is over, tell me what flavor that he is.
It's kind of that way. They know us, we know them. But Dave always does a really good job of coming up with one or two little wrinkles that we haven't seen. And in the last few games, I know the last 3 games for sure. He's hit a big touchdown on us on something that he had set up in previous games and then had a little wrinkle off of it that we hadn't seen, and it pops for a touchdown on us.
And I would think there are things that you can look at from the 15-14 win up there in Denton on October 3rd, but you kind of have to prepare for what you've seen recently, just like you mentioned, too.
Yeah, we go back and we look at, our game for sure, because they did some things against us that they didn't really do, against other people. So, we got to make sure we're prepared for that. But then, they're going to do what they do. They run a lot of inside zone. They run a lot of screens. That's a big thing that we got to be aware of is the fact that they run around 100 screens. There are different types of screens, but things that we would put in the screen category. So we got to be prepared for that. And that's just basically, all those screens are getting the ball out to their playmakers. And number 4 being the main one.
Yeah, and that's going to be one of those things as far as the screens are concerned. If the linemen stop, something's up. So just kind of a rinse and repeat kind of talking to with your defensive players about that sort of thing.
Yes, sir.
I think the one thing about them is you talked about them being more vertical since you last played them too. These are the point totals, or several of the point totals that they've had since that game. 52, 59, 59, those first 2 in the playoffs, and then 41 last week against Richland. So it speaks to your point how much more their offense has come of age.
Yeah, it's like I said, real similar to us. Because if you look at us since we played them, we have a lot bigger point totals than what we had previously. So I think both teams have improved offensively. Both teams still have really, really good defenses. So, it's going to be another really, really close, tight battle.
You mentioned Hennigan, over 2,700 yards passing, 23 touchdowns. He actually has thrown 2 more interceptions. Remember, he went into your game without throwing any. And then Alex Patton got the first one off of him in the third quarter of that game. But I want to ask you in terms of just, you kind of touched on how he is different. Does he just look more confident, more comfortable the way he's running the offense than when you saw him last?
Yeah, I mean, he's just doing a really good job. And I think I may have called him by his brother's name a minute ago. It's Quinn.
Quinn.
Yeah, Quinn.
Yeah.
Quinn's doing a really good job. That's the thing about a coach's kid at quarterback. He's going to manage the game, okay, because he knows what his dad wants, and he and his dad have sat down and talked about all these things, and so and the main thing is, like I said earlier, he was throwing some incomplete passes on some deep balls. They had some open receivers they were just missing. He's not missing on those anymore. So that's the main thing is, he's gotten to where he's hitting those. He's more consistent with, completing those passes.
Kind of an all hands on deck to your secondary this week, too.
Yeah, secondary's got to be on point.
Okay. Is there anything you and your staff have to do to make sure that your team is not too overhyped for this game? As we recall, this was the round where the season ended last year, and so I'm sure that fire still burns, but you don't want to get your point to the point where you're so over the edge that you kind of lose focus on things.
Yeah, we started talking about that on Saturday. We said, hey, look, guys, we realized, this is going to be an emotional game. It was an emotional game when we played them back in October. We got to make sure that we can go out and play with a lot of fire, with a lot of intensity, but be able to control our emotions to where we don't do things that will hurt the team, which is, getting those shoving penalties after the play where, they might be shoving us. So we're going to shove back because they're not going to get the best of us, we can't get into that. And, that's not what the football game's all about. So go play the football game the right way, and go play with great intensity during the play. When the play's over, then let it go.
Yeah, and that's a team, and this is nothing disrespectful of what Dave does up there, but, I mean, his team will chirp a little bit, and so you guys have got to find a way to just not respond.
Yeah, and you don't see that until they're playing us. And I think that's part of the rivalry that we have created with them since we've been in their district the last 4 years. Because every game there is so much on the line. There's a lot of intensity in those games, and there's a lot of emotions of wanting to get the best of the other team because we're both championship programs, and we don't want somebody to get the best of us.
Sure. I want to ask you this though: what do you think you learned as a coach from last year's state quarterfinal meeting down in Crowley?
I think I learned that at halftime I need to make sure that the guys are coming out ready to go. We didn't play well the second half, and so I need to make sure that I'm on top of that, and I need to make sure that our kids are ready to roll, and that the moment doesn't get too big for us, because I think that the moment got too big for some of them in the fourth quarter. And we made some mistakes in that fourth quarter. We had 3 turnovers in the second half.
Right.
We can't do that. You turn the ball over against these guys, you're going to get beat. And there's a good chance that they're going to take one of those turnovers for a touchdown.
Just like when you guys were able to get, they had one of their touchdowns was the pick 6 in the third quarter, actually, that made it 14-2. And then that was pretty much where the game was hanging in the balance, the one I'm talking about in October. So, I mean, that kind of speaks to it right there. Now, the future of this series, of course, you all are moving up to 6A next year. They're going to stay at 5A, but this is what it is. And you and Dave have talked about continuing this series even into as a non-district season, just because it's a great matchup between you two, a lot of respect for these programs. And even though it won't carry the same magnitude as district meetings or playoff meetings will be concerned, it's still Aledo versus Denton Ryan, and there's always going to be something to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's always going to be a big game when Aledo and Denton Ryan match up. So we've talked about possibly playing in the preseason next year, and we'll see if that can get finalized.
All right, sounds good. And of course, the realignment will be what we think is going to be on February 2nd. That's where both Aledo and Denton Ryan will know their fate. And, Coach, we look forward to it. Now let's make sure that we can stop that trend where we win all the regular season matchups and they win all the playoff matchups. It would be nice to kind of get that roles reversed on that.
That's the plan.
All right, sounds good. All right, have a great week of work and appreciate your being with us.
Thank you.
All right, and we want to remind you that this Aledo Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and iPhysio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And by Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family owned and operated for over 30 years. Stick around. The second segment of the podcast will head your way next. We're going to be joined by Kaydon Finley and Payton Shaffer. We're back after this timeout.
First and goal for the Bearcats at the Heights 2-yard line. It is a give up the middle to Kaydon Wingfield. Keeps the legs turning, and he's into the end zone. Touchdown, Aledo Bearcats.
And that was the first of 3 touchdowns for Kaydon Wingfield in the Bearcats' 55-0 victory in the 5A Division I Region I semifinal matchup against Arlington Heights. Welcome you back to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast here at Parker County Brewing Company. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Before we get to Kaydon Finley and Payton Shaffer, let's give you a couple Aledo notables for you. Most importantly, we'll focus on National Signing Day for the football class of 2026. It's this coming Wednesday. Aledo will have 6 players signing with programs at all levels. The ceremony starts at 6 o'clock. That'll be at the indoor facility, 6 o'clock in the evening. 6 o'clock in the morning, a little bit too early, but have a feeling, though, that we'll tell you why they're going to be signing a lot early, and that's going to be more ceremonial here in just a few moments. But here are your signees. The gentleman to my left, Kaydon Finley, he will be signing with Notre Dame University, and he's also going to be an early enrollee January 10th, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, January 10th. And then defensive end Carson Dempsey with Tulsa, safety Cameron Hall with Lamar, Peyton Williams, the offensive tackle to UTSA, Chase Wilburn, the linebacker to Towson, that's up in Baltimore, running back Kaydon Wingfield to Sam Houston State. And then as for defensive end Cooper Cyphers with Montana, and safety Lamel Swanson, who is with the United States Military Academy or Army, quarterback Lincoln Tubbs with the United States Air Force Academy, and right guard Ryan Campbell with Trinity University down in San Antonio. Those 4 will not be signing on Wednesday, a little bit different with the service academies in the Division III programs, but they will be on their way to those locations unless something changes, but those signings would be more or less in February. Okay, so we're happy to have both Kaydon Finley and Payton Shaffer on. Okay, so gentlemen, let's talk about, first of all, just overall impressions of the 55-0 win over Arlington Heights. I think this went about as expected. Overall thoughts. I'll start with you on this, Payton.
Yeah, for sure, man. I thought it went great. Special teams was really good, solid throughout the game. Had no punts. Had a couple field goal opportunities, which was good. And I feel like we overall played a really great game. Stayed out of the mess, stayed away from the trash talk, and played really well as a team. And I thought it went overall really good. Okay, and then for you, Kaydon, what'd you think?
Yeah, we played with a lot of physicality that game. I think we had a really good week of practice leading up into the Arlington Heights game, and it was a good momentum booster for Denton Ryan this week.
All right, so for you, let's give you your specific numbers. 1,119 yards and 17 touchdowns, the Aledo all-time record now at 50 touchdown grabs for a career. Do you feel any different physically from where you were coming off the bye?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I have a little more confidence right now, during this long playoff stretch than I did coming off the bye week. A little more confidence, in my abilities catching the ball, running routes, and just in the offense as a whole, too. So it's just great having that momentum booster and that confidence going into this week.
What about for you, though, physically, though? Just the way you're feeling, the way you're moving, that sort of thing. How does
I feel great. Lost a couple pounds since the bye week, so I'm feeling great physically also.
Okay, so I want to ask you about this high pointing stuff because you had the one at Denton High at the end of the regular season, and you almost had one last week. You came down with it, but you were out of bounds. Is that something that you work on, or how does that even come about, or is that just instincts that take over?
It's instincts, but also like in my free time when I'm bored, I just like to throw the ball up or something like that. So I guess that's where I get the one-handed practice from. But hopefully, in the games to come, I can get a foot or two down next time.
Yeah, I mean, you weren't close to getting in bounds, but it was fun to watch it, though, that's for sure. All right, Payton, for you, you're wearing 2 hats. You're the kicker and the punter. Let's talk kicking first. And I think what strikes me is that your field goal number's really good this year. You're 8 out of 12. Your longest was 39. That just came this past Friday against Arlington Heights. Confidence is a major part of a kicker's life. Where are you at right now?
No, for sure. I feel great personally, especially throughout the season. I feel like special teams progressively has gotten a lot better throughout the season. just from the snap to the hold all the way through the kick. It's progressively gotten a lot more, and I feel a lot more comfortable just getting ready to go kick. And I don't have to worry about anything. I just have one job to do and then succeed in doing that job.
And the 39-yarder was on the opening possession of the game for the Bearcats, and so obviously that drive didn't finish the way they wanted to in the end zone. But so they bring you out there. Now you have the wind at your back, but at the same time, that's still something you got to navigate through just because that thing can push it anywhere else. It's nice to get that lift from behind, but you still have to make sure that you navigate that. Something you had to kind of work with as you were going through pregame warm-ups, or how did you kind of deal with that? And then just take us through the field goal itself.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely pregame is probably the biggest thing for me, getting a feel for how that wind's blowing, what it's doing to the ball, left, right, up, and down. And then being the first drive of the game, that was a big momentum boost for the team that I felt. And really making that field goal really helped us out a lot. And, that's just it's a big part of the game, and it was good.
Okay, and then for you, tried the 45, I think it was a 45-yarder, and it was just a little bit to the left on that. But in spite of that, I mean, you can kick that. So what does that tell you about your leg so that if this game on Friday against Ryan were to get to a late and critical situation, about your belief about going out there and from going from a distance that's beyond 40?
Yeah, that helps me out a lot, knowing that I'm able to have that leg and to be able to get past that 45 to kind of 50-yard range. It builds a lot of confidence in me and just assures me to know that I'm able to do that. And then if we got to do it, let's do it.
All right, is that something that you're working on right now in practice right now, 45, 50-yarders just on your own, or how are you doing that?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we do them every day. After school, we work on anywhere between 47 to 52-yard field goals. And then on Thursdays, we kick a field goal at the end that's around 45 yards just to really build that confidence before the games.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so let's talk about Ryan Part 4. This was the round last year where it ended for your season. Obviously, that's not the way you guys wanted it to end last year. Unfortunately, it did. Regular season win was great, pivotal to the postseason in terms of just how you guys felt about your season. But what's the approach going into this one? I'll start with you, Kaydon.
Yeah, really just setting the tone early. First play of the game, going out there, either blocking or doing whatever you can to the best of your ability, playing for one another. I think that's another big thing we can do this week to give us a little edge, but also offensively set the tempo early, get them tired so we can wear them down, and then hopefully throughout the game we can take some shots, spread the ball sideline to sideline so we can wear them out a little bit.
All right, and then for you, how do you see that, Peyton?
Yeah, for sure. Especially for me, like when we're starting off, if we're starting off with a kickoff for the first start of the game, that's a big thing. Go down, hit somebody hard, have a good kick. It really sets the tone for the game and for the team. And yeah, offense just does their thing, defense does their thing, and then I think we'll have a good game.
All right, Kaydon, you see anything interesting about their secondary and the way they are playing now? Obviously, they gave you a lot of attention in the first meeting up there at the Collins Complex, and I'm sure you're going to see your fair share of double teams, and nothing that you haven't seen before, but anything that you're noticing that could be potentially different that you kind of have to be on the watch for on Friday?
I mean, really the same things from the first time we played them this year. Their defense hasn't changed a whole bunch, but no, sir. Not really.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
It almost seemed like in these first three playoff games against Saginaw, Amarillo, Tascosa, and Arlington Heights that they were like, let's just get our work done and get our things in because these games are so lopsided.
Yeah.
And again, that's nothing disrespectful to those programs. They work their way in to get to the playoffs, win a couple games or win a game to get into where they ran into you. But I'm sure deep down each of you in that locker room, but since you two are here, I'll ask you specifically, that you probably felt like when you got done playing them on October 3rd that you were going to see these Raiders again, were you not? I'll start with you on this, Peyton.
Yeah, for sure, man. This is a huge game, and really just to get back, I feel that last year losing to them was it was a big hurt to the team, and I think really this year that should light a fire and really give us some momentum to go into this game and ready to win.
And then what about for you, Kaydon?
Yeah, piggybacking off what he said, I think after that game last year, we won't let it happen again, so just go out there and play our best.
All right.
Yes,
and then I think that's the important thing, too, because that gives me the way to transition to this question about how do you try to make sure that this game stays as normal as possible? It's intense. It's emotional. Obviously, we saw some of that in the first game back in October. But what's going to be key to try and making sure that you just, I'm not going to say treat it like Saginaw, but because of what's at stake here, but just trying to keep it as normal as possible?
Yeah. I just say don't get caught up in the noise. Don't let your emotions take control of you during the game. Don't do stupid, selfish stuff during the game that could hurt your team. Play for one another, and, yeah, just don't let your emotions get the best of you.
Okay, and then what about for you, Peyton?
Yeah, absolutely. Playing for one another is a huge thing, and our coaches do a really great job of keeping us calm down on the sidelines and not letting things get out of hand. And, yeah, I feel like we play for one another. We do our jobs. We should be good.
Okay. And I want to ask you about this because you had to add the punting job to your description late in this season. So how has that transition been? And to what extent are your leg mechanics different on each of those skills?
They're fairly similar. I mean, kicking the ball from punting the ball. I played soccer for the last 3 years, which has really helped me out.
Sure.
And I've kicked since I was in 4th grade, so it's always been a natural thing. But going from kicking the ball to punting the ball, it's a little bit different. But overall, I just think it is the same way. I mean, same leg swing, same power, same everything. Just stay through the ball.
Okay, and then for you, you said before we started recording this that it just came naturally for you to kick left-footed. But
yes, sir.
Was it something that, though, when you were young, that you were going back and forth between the right and the left, and it just kind of felt better going with the left, or how did that all come about?
Yes, sir. I can kick with both feet, but I've kicked since 4th grade, playing Pee Wee football with him, and I've always kicked with my left foot, so it's just always been my dominant foot going all the way through.
Okay, now I want to ask you, too, about using visualization in this skill. How much do you use it, and when do you use it?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, we're going up to line up for a 45-yard field goal. I'm going to find me a point on the field, and I'm going to aim my body directly towards that point. I'm going to finish my leg through that point. That's kind of how I visualize it, that's my follow-through, and that's where I need to be for the ball to go in.
Okay, and then finally for you, Kaydon, National Signing Day on Wednesday, going to Notre Dame, as we mentioned. You report on January 10th. You have the national letter of intent, as you mentioned to me, from Coach Freeman, and I assume that he made it clear to you that he wanted that letter in to the Notre Dame offices, the football offices, by 6 a.m.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll be doing that during practice. I'll get on a little video call with them, do that, sign my thing, then go back out to practice a little bit, and then at 6 or 6:30 at the indoor, I'll be having my little ceremony with all my other guys out there. So I'll come out and support.
All right, sounds good. And then for you, does it now, the fact that you're less than 48 hours from doing this, as we're recording this, has it kind of hit you hard that it's like, here it is, it's coming, and you're going to be gone in about 6 weeks?
Yeah, it's hit me these last few weeks. Like, I used to think like, oh, I got time, it's so far away, but these last few weeks I've really been soaking in, home and the people I have here. So just doing that and just knowing like in a couple weeks it'll all be over, and then it's time to go grind and go get it. So
for
yes,
sure.
Sir.
We should mention too about National Signing Day. Now, for those who don't know, that it starts at 7 o'clock depending on the time zone. So it'll be 7 o'clock here. It would be 8 o'clock out on the Eastern time zone. But because it's 7 o'clock in South Bend, Indiana, they're an hour ahead of Texas. So that's why they can get his letter in by 6 o'clock in the morning in that Eastern time zone there. Final thoughts, gentlemen, about just getting ready for this game against Ryan. Again, play them many times before. You know what this game is all about. Final things that you guys are working on this week to get ready for Friday. I'll start with you on this, Peyton.
Yes, sir. Really just keying in on, placement of the ball. Really just focusing on doing my job and allowing others to do their job, and just getting ready for the game. Working special teams a lot, man. Just trying to everybody do their job, everybody do their thing, and go kick some butt.
All right, then for you, Kaydon.
Yeah, just doing everything fast, tweaking up whatever we need tweaked up, just so that we could have a close to perfect or even perfect game to go out and beat these boys.
All right, sounds good, gentlemen. Listen, we'll look forward to it. Again, we want to remind you that this Aledo Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and iPhysio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And by Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. And don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family owned and operated for over 30 years. And don't forget the Bearcats and the Ryans. Well, why would you forget the Bearcats and the Ryan Raiders? But anyway, don't forget this game. Friday night, 92.1 Hank FM has the coverage for you. The pregame show is at 6:30, and then the kickoff at Northwest ISD Stadium is at 7 o'clock. So for my engineer, Zach Holmes, and the rest of the Hank FM staff, thanks for being with us here at Parker County Brewing Company. We're back next Monday. We'll talk next week when we hope we're discussing a return to the state semifinals against either Highland Park or Frisco Lone Star. Make it a great week. I'm Kevin Lonnquist, and so long for the Aledo Coaches Show podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Aledo Coaches Show Podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. With the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us every Monday night at 7 from Parker County Brewing Company in Willow Park. It's the Aledo Coaches Show Podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1, Hank FM, and NTXVarsitySports.com.